39BF Rochester, the sports leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester.
Always live on the free Odyssey app.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
Stephon Diggs is now a member of the Texans.
What are we doing? Are we better today? Probably not. It's a work in progress. And I would just hope that people know I'm as competitive as hell. And I ain't giving in.
You really have to not like a player to eat that much dead cap space. To me, that's a McDermott thing. That's a McDermott decision.
But it does set him up to be in a great spot for the coming season.
But the idea that the Bills' window is closed when Josh Allen is 27 years old is one of the most asinine things I've ever heard. How could the window be closed when Allen is in his prime?
Because the window was barely open before.
Mike Danger.
This broadcaster is cursed. It feels like every time I break away for a week, something like this happens.
Gene Battaglia.
Should we lower our expectations for the Buffalo Bills here in 2024?
I got a lot of faith in this team, even in its current state.
It feels like now the Bills are just kind of going to go old school, like ground and pound.
Dalton Kincaid is the number one option now. Like it or not, he's the guy.
It's not September.
95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester.
And good afternoon. Pull up a stool and join us. You are in the Sports Bar, Rochester's only local sports call-in show. So glad you're with us here today. I woke up this morning, like, wait a second. That really happened. Has ever happened to you, like, something happens from the day before, like it wasn't good? Like, oh my gosh, that really did happen. My gosh, they traded Diggs. So, yeah, I think we still can kind of soak this in. We've all had kind of a day to think about where the Bills go, and it happened, but now there has to be more, and that's kind of what we're going to be talking about a lot today. Dan DeLorean back on the board today. Our good friend, we welcome in Mike Underwood, which this is like... Do we say annual, semi-annual?
Yeah, I'd say semi-annual.
Semi-annual.
Yeah.
Like, I knew Danger was going to be out this week. I'm like, hey, come on in. I just didn't know we would be talking about Steph Diggs and this big stuff here today.
Sitting here yesterday morning, sipping my coffee, thinking about today, going, I wonder what Gene and I are going to talk about tomorrow. You and Brandon Bean, here we are.
Yeah, that's it. So we got time for your calls. I appreciate everybody, all the interaction yesterday. 866-4326, 866-4FAN is our phone number. As here's what's happening. Here's what's on tap, courtesy of Three Heads Brewing. Coming up in the 4 o'clock hour, an interview we had scheduled yesterday, but this guy, all class, gracious, Kevin O'Klubja, who is with the Rochester Business Journal, also picking splinters, wanted to invite Kevin on to talk about not just the Amerks on the ice, but this idea that Pagulas are pulling away from managing the Blue Cross Arena. And what does this mean? Like, why? And then, we'll talk a little Amerks here, too. When I called Kevin yesterday, I said, hey, I didn't have Steph Diggs trade on my bingo card from today. He was gracious, so we'll have that coming up in the 4 o'clock hour. We'll also talk to Joe Post. Now, if you're not familiar with Joe Post's story, Canandaigua High School, went to St. John Fisher University, one of the top face-off guys. Yeah, face-off guys, Division III. He makes the jump to the Nighthawks, and he's tearing it up. He's like 68% going against the pros here. So Joe Post getting it done for the Rochester Nighthawks. They're back home Saturday night taking on New York. We'll talk to our local guy, turned pro, and like that's always cool. Like Ernie Clement, all these guys in the NBA right now. Right. Certainly the Gianta brothers love when local Section 5 guys make it up to
100%.
Yeah, so we'll talk to Joe Post. We've got time for your calls at 866-4FAN, 866-4326. Before the calls, Mike, your just your thoughts here. I shared my thoughts yesterday, like, wow, there better be something else here. Now, this looks a little barren.
It looks bleak, but, as Bills fans, the sun came up today, surely, so we're still here. We're still moving forward, but we'll see what Brandon Bean has up his sleeve. I doubt they're going to trade a high draft pick for another wide receiver. Obviously they're going to probably eye one up in the draft, you would imagine. But I'd go as far as to say I don't even think they draft a wide receiver in the first round. I think, but you probably are going to see two bare at minimum in rounds 2 through 6. That would be my guess.
Yeah, look, I would say minimum 2 out of this draft, maybe even 3. Justin Shorter is going to be the guy we're going to be talking a lot about.
Justin Shorter.
Being the receiver, yeah, that from Florida, late round pick, but wasn't healthy. And it's almost like they gave him a redshirt year last year kind of
felt
thing.
that way.
Yeah, but what's right there, I like Khalil Shakir a lot. Don't get me wrong. Is he a true number 1? No.
No. Not in today's NFL.
No. Mac Hollins seems like a bottom-of-the-end guy.
No.
KJ Hamler is just kind of a returner. So there are spots that are up for grabs. Oh, can't forget Curtis Samuel, but Curtis Samuel's not a guy who's going to be a 1,000-yard receiver, much less.
Well, you wouldn't think. He hasn't done it to this point.
Yeah, it would be. It's not like it wouldn't be unprecedented that a guy that is, getting up there.
Gene, I will say, we've seen this story play out in the past. Point you towards our friends there in Kansas City. Get rid of Tyreek Hill, okay? And then move forward the next year, grab Rashae Rice in the second round, and we're off to the races. They got Travis Kelce. So, I mean, you don't have to look too far to see a team that has done this and had success.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, it's if you are one that judges the Buffalo Bills about what people are saying, well, then you shouldn't do that, first of all, because right now the narrative is window closing and other teams. Okay, well, first of all, like nothing has changed really with the Chiefs, the Bengals, the Texans, sure, that's gone up. But the bottom line is this. The window is not closing because as compared to the other teams in the AFC East, the Bills are still the favorites. And I'm not wearing Bills colored glasses when I tell you that. That's just kind of a fact. And if you are in the postseason, how is your window closed? You're right in the party there.
Yeah, as long as you got 17. He's not even 30 years old yet. Like the window is wide open.
We got time for your calls, 866-4326. The Dandalorian. Hello, sir.
Hey, Gino.
Hey, we got you got one eye on the board, one eye on the Met game. They've gone to the 10th, 3-3 with Detroit. What do we got here, bud?
We have one of our favorites, Linda from Webster.
Hi, Linda. All right, Linda.
Gino. What is going on? Yeah. I heard this news about Diggs, and I thought, is it time to whisper the dreaded R word? Rebuild. Nobody wants to say rebuild. I don't know. Maybe. And what are we going to do with all those Alan Diggs signs that everybody has in their lawn? We'll have to like white it out or blue it out and say Alan plus blank, fill in the blank. So I think I'm just sort of resigned to it will be a nice year. It will be an entertaining year. And like you said, we have a very good chance to win the AFC East, but like making noise in the playoffs, I'm not getting my hopes up unless something drastic happens during the course of the season. I would love to be wrong. I would love to be proven wrong on this. I'm just going to wait and see what happens. Maybe Brandon Beane has more moves up his sleeve than we don't know about. I would like to hope. So I guess those are my thoughts. And, of course, this happens when Danger's on vacation, right? Of course this happens when he's on vacation.
Well, I made him work yesterday, Linda. Like, I'm okay. Well, he was in line for whatever the Harry Potter ride. Are you familiar with the Harry Potter ride?
I am not a Universal guy. I'm a Disney guy.
Okay, yeah. So I'm a Disney guy, too. I guess I don't know. But it was kind of hearing all the screaming kids in the background and everything else. Linda, sorry. Appreciate the call, Linda, and thank you for your thoughts. 866-4326. No, it's not a rebuild. It's just not. Like you have to understand that Brandon Beane is not going to go into the season with Shakir, Mac Hollins, and a collection of Justin Short. There's more to come here.
Still have Kincaid. You got Knox, who's vastly underutilized. Don't forget about, okay? There's like James Cook. We can lean on him a little more. You never know. I mean, it's April 4th. What are we talking about here?
Yeah, well, I'm glad you got the date right because you listened to Brandon Beane yesterday. Well, what is it? It's April 4th. It's April 3rd. It's April 4th. So the guy was just so tired from all over the place here. It's the thing. This is all Diggs too. Diggs is Mr. Cryptic. Diggs, there's always feels like there's more to the story. And when it comes to this trade, if you're just looking on it from the surface level, okay, why would the Buffalo Bills make this trade? Number one, you're weaker at wide receiver, okay, right now. Fact. Number two, this does add a little more against your cap this year, albeit only $3 million, but still that dead cap figure, it's kind of gross there. And number three, maybe this outweighs 1 and 2. Where you sent him? That's the part. I could see Brandon Beane saying, "We have a plan. We're gonna go bring this veteran in." I don't think that's gonna be it. No. But now he has a little more capital to move up and get the one receiver that he wants. And if you don't think you can get a receiver in the late teens, early 20s, I would point to Justin Jefferson, who went number 22 overall. Okay, it can be done in the first year. But
aforementioned Rashae Rice, second round.
Yeah, second round. Rasheed Rice was, although right now, he's got his issues.
Personal issues aside, let's just talk about the on-field stuff.
Yeah, but when the Packers knew they had to break up with Brett Favre, and Brett Favre is making noise that he wants to go to Minnesota, they didn't send him to Minnesota. Like, they sent him to the Jets. Now, it was like a layover, ended up in Minnesota eventually, but how many times throughout the course of sports history, you're going to say, hey, you're not going to be here. We're sending you to the other conference. Now, you didn't trade him in division.
No.
But the idea that Houston, team on the rise, Houston, rookie quarterback, which means rookie deal. You're not paying C.J. Stroud. My son had an interesting point, Mike, and it was this, that maybe C.J. Stroud in his second year is really old. I'm like, okay, well, look, maybe we're not ready. I think he's going to be good. He's good. Yeah, he's good. But I didn't like that. I didn't like the fact that...
the only thing I don't like about it.
Yeah, that he's where you're sending him.
But in a way, it tells you what Brandon Beane really thinks about Stephon Diggs, honestly. Because you're looking at a playoff team from last year, the Texans, and you're trading them to inside the AFC, so you're obviously not scared of facing him at some point because you presume Brandon Beane feels like he's going to be in the postseason again this year. So... That's pretty loud right there.
Yeah. Our buddy Mike Underwood is the voice you're hearing here. Danger is, I don't know what Florida property he's on today.
I was hoping he was going to up the ante here and call in maybe from Tower of Terror. Disney call-ins working here.
That's 2 weeks in a row because we had Matt Perino from Epcot last week.
On Test Track.
Yeah, Test Track. And that you could hear and yesterday was just screaming children in the background. That's all kind of came across. But my question here, and again, Mike, gracious with his time today. They did get a second-round pick. It's Minnesota's. We got to point that out,
right?
Which means, all right, that could actually be a high second-round pick. By the time the 2025 draft comes around, do the Buffalo Bills still own that pick they got from Houston?
I would say yes. I feel like that he's going to hang. Are you talking about draft day? Because I could see him parlaying a draft day trade to slide up maybe in 25, depending what happens this year. But I think he will run the balance of this year and hold on to that pick. He does not like trading draft capital. He really hasn't done it.
Okay, but dude, he moves up
too many times.
He moves up every year in the first round.
Yeah,
correct. So that you
but
don't have
willy-nilly with his draft capital.
You don't have a third rounder this year because they thought they were going to get the third rounder and that didn't happen. I think whether it's that pick or your own, that's what you kind of have to use to kind of move up.
Right.
Now, Dunze has kind of like been the flavor here. Could you get him? Marvin Harrison Jr. is a swing for the fences type of guy. The baseline trade I would go to, and this is going back a number of years, but the guy is still in the league, believe it or not. Julio Jones. Okay. Like he was with Philadelphia, I think, tail end of last year. Mm-hmm. But Julio Jones, when he came into the league, that was Cleveland's pick. Cleveland was at 5. Atlanta was at 22.
Wow.
So what did that cost? Well, it cost pick number 22, certainly. Next year's number 1 and 2 number 2s. So there was and there was another trade in there. It was like there were 5 picks overall to go from 22 to launch up to 5.
And Julio Jones worked out pretty good.
Yeah, so like that would be like if you want to go up to 5, and I circle 5 because, well, that's a team on that is rebuilding. Anybody that says the Buffalo Bills are rebuilding, I'm like, no, you have you have your coaching staff, you have everything in place. But you need to rework the roster here. The Chargers, to me, are a team that I don't think are going to stay at 5. Probably Minnesota would be, if they want the quarterback and he's there, that would be like the likely pick. But the Chargers are going to be on the move here.
A lot of holes, so it would make sense for them to back out and get some extra draft capital, fill some of those holes.
Yeah, Mike Underwood, our guest here on Track Auto Sales. Another thing, too, and I heard all the callers coming into One Bills Live. By the way, how do they screen? Like Dan DeLore, I think you should screen the calls for One Bills Live, Dan.
All right.
Yeah, Dan's a little he's a little more tough there when it comes to screening the calls.
I hope Bean was listening because they're making him aware of several guys out there, guys you may not have heard of, Justin Jefferson, Brandon Ayuk.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys knew those guys were players that were maybe looking to move teams.
Yeah, I don't see the ball. I can't say 100% because I didn't think the Bills would be moving Steph Diggs. I put my hand up in the air. But hard for me to see the Bills spending a first-round pick like they did for Steph Diggs on a Brandon Ayuk or like the case of T. Higgins. Hey, I know the Bills sent Diggs to a conference, I don't even want to say rival, but a conference contender.
Right.
I don't see Cincinnati doing Buffalo a solid. No, and that's a totally different situation. To me, when you use the franchise tag like that, it's a little vindictive. Like you should be able to sit down and work out some sort of parameter for a deal. It's almost like you're holding the player against their will. And
once you tag them, it rarely works out beyond that point. Rarely.
Yeah, like you'll get maybe the 1 year out of it.
Right.
Gosh, who was it? It was Jonathan Taylor. He ends up signing eventually. And did he do anything last year? No, he did not.
No, not much.
No. Oh, great. Looks like the Tigers are ready to go ahead in extra innings.
Oh, no.
No. Do not play the music, Dan. No.
I wasn't going to.
Wasn't
you don't want to step right up and meet the Mets?
Listen, I don't know if you knew this, Mike. You're a Red Sox fan. I am measured. I am
I've
calm.
seen this. Yeah.
I am a new man.
I noted it when I walked in. It's very zen vibe in here. Very reformed Mets fan, as you refer to it.
I'm not throwing my pen across the studio. I'm not getting upset at this team. And when they start, if they go on a little bit,
you run out of pens.
Yeah, I would not be not going to be like jumping up and down and getting all excited if they go on a 2-game winning streak or anything like that. So this is like the new me when it comes to this stuff.
Well, we'll see.
Back to the veteran part. I don't see that. No. For the main reason, and you heard Bronny bring this up too. He called it a fly in the ointment. It's like, there's not a lot of cap room right now. No. According to like Spot Track and the guys and Brandon Bean said this yesterday, like right now they have only like a little over $3 million this year, which technically is not even enough to sign your own draft picks. Now you're going to get a little bit of relief when the Tre'Davious White thing kicks off in June. But other than that, though, like what can you do right now other than guys for the minimum?
Hope you get somebody willing to sign on a bargain, maybe. But I mean, who's sitting out? Tyler Boyd's sitting out. That's a name right there that I wouldn't mind seeing in a Bills uniform. But he's not going to sign for $1 million or vet minimum or something. It's not happening.
No. Maybe you're hoping that as time goes on and it's June and some of these guys are sitting out there a little longer. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if you had like some kind of prove-it deal for one of these guys that was very incentive-laden at that point. I think that's the only thing. But the idea that you could possibly get, like a big name here, I don't see that at all. So
not happening.
No, not at all here. So the Tigers have gone up on the Mets 4-3. The Red Wings rained out again today, which
so good
it looks like it could be promising tomorrow night. So what we'll do here, we'll take a quick break here, and we'll have more with our buddy Mike Underwood coming up at 4:00. Our friend. He's been on the show before. That would be Joe Post from the Rochester Nighthawks. So we'll set that up. Kevin Aklubja from the Rochester Business Journal. Peter writing in. You can write us at X, or Dan still calls it Twitter.
Elon's Twitter, gee.
Yeah. This was 12 minutes ago. See, I don't know. Did you come across this first? The trade for Steph Diggs seemed reminiscent to the Kansas City Chiefs letting him go to the Dolphins, meaning Tyreek. Yeah. Just seems that Buffalo is 3 steps behind Kansas City.
Well, we'll see. I will say, though, I think losing Gabe Davis this year will impact the offense more directly than losing Steph Diggs.
Yeah.
I'll leave you on that.
Well, we have time. More of your reaction coming up on X here. Our number, 866-4326. My name is Gene Battaglia. Danger is off this week. Mike Underwood in, along with Dan DeLorean, here on the Fan Rochester.
You're listening to the Sports Bar with Danger and
Sports Talk. You're in the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
Time for your calls here at 866-4326, 866-4FAN. We will talk lacrosse and hockey coming up in the 4 o'clock hour. But, it's just kind of funny. Like, oh, it's official. Why wouldn't it have been official? Oh, I guess Houston was just kind of waiting to see like if Stephon Diggs would pass his physical. I'm curious what Diggs will be saying. I know he put the goodbye today on social media. It was on Instagram to the Bills fan base. It was very classy. It was it's not even worth kind of reading here, in my opinion. But if you want to go find it, so be it. But there's like some loose ends here, Mike, to this whole thing. One, and I think we can kind of deduct this, but did Diggs ask for a trade? Should that matter? Like, I mean, I think he did, because when Brandon Beane was asked the question, being kind of ducked it. Right. Maybe he didn't hear it, but like, McBean. Like that's the way to kind of do it. Like, Beane is savvy enough to know, hey, that's not. I don't want to get caught on tape saying that Steph Diggs asked for a trade, and really it doesn't even matter at this point. He's kind of gone. But how did this relationship kind of sour over the years? And Diggs' behavior on social media. Now, this is something that I didn't kind of get into yesterday, but I would say it now, because this is how a lot of things are in the world today. I'm not a big fan of this. Like, I'm going to put things out there on Facebook or on X.
It's the root of all evil.
Yeah, it's like, it's not. And Diggs would always be tweaking, always be poking. But what was kind of the consensus with us here in West New York? Like, oh, that's just Diggs being Diggs. That's just Diggs being Diggs. When the production kind of goes down,
that's just it.
Then what are we doing? That Tim Graham had a good.
I read that on the Athletic.
Fantastic. It's like the passive aggressive behavior. Yep. At some point, okay, that's enough.
Yeah, when you're going for 1,800 yards and 15 touchdowns, we can look the other way.
Yeah, and one thing that kind of got overlooked, because we were all putting McDermott on blast. That Monday night loss to Denver.
Right.
That was terrible. That was terrible. But kind of lost in all that was like Trayvon Diggs in Dallas saying "get out of there" to his brother, essentially.
Yeah.
Okay, so then why? You have to tell your brother, hey, stop.
Yeah, you're blowing up my spot here. Maybe relax.
Or you've got to, or at least come out and say he's wrong. But it came to don't even bring that up about my family. It's like, okay, you're kind of undermining your own coaching staff and your own team, and surely that was a terrible loss. It was bad for the organization, but what ended up happening after that game? Well, the Bills lose in Philadelphia, and that really was kind of a back-and-forth game. The Bills would win this game if there wasn't a 59-yard field goal in the rain that sent it to overtime. The team came together in the month of December, really when it kind of mattered the most. And was Diggs a big part of that?
Not in the least.
No, like one touchdown after that's the part where you wonder if the Bills were sending a message. And Graham pointing this out, that in the Sunday night game, where the Bills are actually down in this game at the half. Like, we remember, wow, they're going to end up having to go on the road to Kansas City here, where they pulled it together thanks to a big special teams play. But the idea that were the Bills...
They were removing him from the field on critical third down.
Were they, or was he going off himself?
Whichever it was. He was not on the field in critical third down situations late in the season.
That's crazy. Like, in the Patriot game... This is the Week 17 game. He's not on the field to begin the second half.
Correct. Yeah, and I remember at the time that you specifically on the show were talking about that.
Yeah, what is it? Why? And the coaching staff was kind of giving we have different packages, and we have different. What package would you not want your best receiver on third down?
I watched a little bit of Vikings ball this year. I didn't see JJ coming off the field on critical third downs. There was no package that removed Justin Jefferson from the field. You go right down the list. Top 5 receivers are generally on the field in a critical third down.
Yeah, I think, if you listen to our show, maybe you work in management, And I think there's something that can be said for how Bean and McDermott handled this. Taking the high road. There's like maybe a lesson in life. They really did, because I'm sure there's a lot more to the story that you would love to whisper in an ear to a Tim Graham or somebody else, like, hey, let me tell you what was going on here and why we had to kind of make this move. And Brandon Bean is taking bullets right now. Why would you make this move? What is your plan? Your team isn't as good. And he had to admit that yesterday, but they had to make
But this is right on brand with what they've both done since the minute they got at One Bills Drive in Orchard Park. They jettisoned Marcel Darius. They jettisoned Sammy Watkins. It's going to be our way or the highway. And when you're done buying in, you're out.
Yeah, it was, but that was different because you're just starting to build things at that point. It
was different because it hadn't had any success.
Yeah,
but it was the same in regards to them maintaining control of the locker room.
Yeah,
my opinion.
Yeah, and so that's the part. And the thing about taking the high road, well, Diggs kind of do the same thing, because I don't think we would ever take an opposing player's press conference on our show. Like, we took Brandon Bean's press conference live, and it wasn't surprising yesterday. He didn't really give us anything that we would, but whoa, I didn't know that. Other than the fact that, sidebar, like, Allen knew about this apparently for some time.
Allen knew, and there was one particular comment that he had made referring to Allen or Steph Diggs not having any kind of massive success prior to being paired up with Josh Allen, which I found a little interesting, but it was just,
Yeah, it's, so, which would bring us to Houston, whether that's tomorrow, next week, when he gets up there. And the thing you got to know about the Houston media, a lot easier than it's like. Look, we're not Philadelphia or Boston, New York City, mind you, but the Buffalo media can be critical. And sometimes I would like to think that we on our show here can kind of say something.
Very much so.
But in Houston, it's a different game. It's everything is okay, and it's like Texas. It's a different culture down there. I don't know if Diggs will get the hard questions, and maybe the Buffalo News will send down a Catherine Fitzgerald, or somebody will go down there. I'm just curious if Diggs will go out of his way at some point in that press conference. What I think will happen
seems unlikely.
What I think, though, at like some point, maybe on a podcast or something like that.
You're going to see it on Twitter, Facebook, like he has been doing,
It's something that I would suggest Bills fans just know that it's coming. I'm not telling you to tune out, but know that it's coming, that you're going to have Steph Diggs down in Houston, and he's going to say something like, I've never worked with a better quarterback than C.J. Stroud. There are certain passive-aggressive things that you can kind of needle.
If their season goes poorly, I'm sure there'll be commentary
or DeMarco Ryans is the best coach I've ever had.
That I could see him say.
That's those are the sort of things that he'll say and will get run back. And I hope that's not the case, but I think we know Diggs' character. So
it's gonna happen.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing too is, like, it's not the time, I guess, but like at some point we're gonna reflect on what Diggs meant here. These last 4 years haven't resulted in a single Super Bowl appearance. However, this is a great era of Buffalo Bills football.
Oh, it's fantastic. But unfortunately, all good things come to an end. And I think all the moves they made in this offseason by jettisoning some of the older players is something that had to happen. I mean, at some point, you keep trotting out the same roster and expecting different results. I mean, it's, you got to shake something up.
If you have the quarterback through the years is going to have a different cast around him. Like, you're already seeing this with Mahomes, certainly, and Kelsey. Okay, maybe one more year, but after that 1 year, how do they kind of reshape? Mahomes isn't going anywhere. How many times did you see Brady kind of have to go through
groups?
Different groups, and then one of the groups was just so bad that finally, and they bring in one offseason Randy Moss, and the world kind of changes from there. So, for what is this next group going to look like? And to me, it seems stating the obvious here, but it needs to be said. Josh Allen, this is his offense, his team. He does not have to bend his knee now to a number one wide receiver. He is the guy, and he doesn't have to have a predisposition about where the ball is going here, because I think sometimes with having a receiver like Diggs, sometimes you're forcing things that you don't necessarily have to. So can the offense get a little more balanced next year? And I think Bills fans don't want to hear about complimentary football or anything else there like that.
We heard plenty about that.
But if you draft like the running back from Notre Dame, say in the 4th round, I don't think he'll be there at that point. But they need to get another running back here to kind of pair up here with James Cook. I see this offense taking a whole different direction, where before it was Allen up and down. It wasn't quite the no-huddle K-gun that we grew up with, Mike, but it was wildly entertaining and throwing the ball and everything else. This is going to be more McDermott. This is going to be run the ball, don't turn it over. And
and you're going to have to take a less talented team and hopefully get them to play together. And the Patriots certainly had a lot of success doing that. I mean, they didn't have these mega stars until you noted Randy Moss had shown up, but Brady made a lot of those guys as well. So it's up to Josh now.
Yeah,
make these guys. Let's see what he can do, and he's the guy. So it's all on him. Well, he's been the vast majority of their offense the last handful of seasons, anyways. But now he's got to distribute the ball. Let's see if he can do it.
Well, we got you for a few more minutes here, Mike. Baseball season has started.
Did that go far? Well, at least in Boston it has.
Yeah, they lost.
Downstate.
Okay, Mets lost. Great. That's 0-5 now. Fantastic.
Nice. Red Sox are 5-2. Just
5-2.
Just to notate,
You played Oakland.
It's okay.
It's Oakland.
You're playing Detroit, guy.
Yeah. Hey, Detroit, they're undefeated.
5-0.
Yeah, 5-0. So there.
Okay.
Thank you, Dan.
All right.
Just your thoughts on the AFC East. Excuse me, the AL East. They're still in football mode.
AL East.
AL East. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Competitive as usual. I think the Sox will. Hot take, Sox are going to finish ahead of the Yankees. I don't think they'll win the division, but they're going to finish ahead of New York.
Oh, come on.
Well, mark my words on that.
Now, it's funny. Like I asked you, you're watching the game out in Oakland, so you pick up the games on Nesson. Yeah. Yep. So but you don't like the way baseball has it set up when they have to play the Yankees, and you got to sit.
Terrible. I cannot stand listening to the Yes Network. Like I said, my friend's father said when I was a kid, the Yankees win every game on the Yes Network. Every single one. Never lost one.
Well, this isn't like a pro Mets thing, but I hear this a lot from Yankee fans. It's like, hey, I wish we had your announcers.
Yeah, and they're right.
Because when I watch the Red Sox broadcast, I'm like, okay, I feel like I'm actually learning something about the game. Tell me like an angle with this play or something, or that's
they got a lot of ex-pros go in there. They got Uke most of the time, Middlebrooks. They had Eckersley for a bunch of years, but he's kind of done. But they get some good color.
Yeah. So, and the Yankees, I don't know half the time. It's kind of a sleepy broadcast.
Do they still have Coney on there? I don't know.
I don't even know. Well, the funny thing is, I bounced around with my provider here a little bit. I went from YouTube got rid of a lot of sports properties. So we're on Fubo, but Fubo does not have the Yes Network.
Gotcha.
They have MSG.
I love it. I'm going to sign up tomorrow.
Yeah. So. That's it. Mike, appreciate you coming in, my friend.
Appreciate you having me.
Yeah, one last topic here, and this is kind of the news of the day here. Sacramento is a Major League Baseball city. This is
interesting.
So the news from baseball today is that the A's next year will be playing in Sacramento. In fact, 25, 26, and 27, because it takes a while to build the stadium, as we all know. And I would just question, is that deal actually ever going to happen in Las Vegas? Because if it doesn't, okay, then what are you doing with the team in Sacramento? The stadium in Sacramento?
Well, it can't get much worse by judging the games I watched this past week. I mean, they got about 3 people there.
Yeah.
And they're all visiting teams' fans.
Mike, I don't fault their fans at all.
No,
I don't at all. It's like
actually, their fans are hilarious.
Yeah.
Last year when they were, last year, 2 seasons ago, when they all showed up.
Filled
the place out and tried to chant sell the team. That's awesome.
Opening day, there's more people in the parking lot. Like, okay, we're just going to pay for parking. We're going to tailgate out here, but we're not going in there.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah, so Mike Underwood, On Track Auto Sales, and when you go in, say, you know what, you're a fine sports talk show host fill-in.
That's right. Tell them you want the Chuck Muncie discount. We're still doing that over there. It's been several years running now.
Chuck Muncie discount. Somebody tweeted at me this Chuck Muncie montage. I got to send it to you. This is like somebody actually went through and put like 70s music to it. It's fantastic. So
great.
Yeah, like you are a true listener for that poll. Mike, thanks so much, buddy.
Oh, thank you.
Mike Underwood, On Track Auto Sales, again, Buffalo Road in Gates. We will take a break. We've got more thoughts coming up. We'll also talk some lacrosse next hour. Joe Post from the Rochester Nighthawks, Kevin O'Klubja talking about the Amerks both on the ice and off the ice. Also, the RIT Tigers with his portal, too. Your thoughts and calls. You can reach us on X. The Fan Rochester is our handle. Our phone number, 866-4FAN, 866-4326, The Fan Rochester.
There, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
Yeah, I get the sense that so many people are taking a 3-day weekend, but it's not a 3-day weekend where it begins tonight. And then, well, for me, it does. Hopefully I don't have this cold when I go on my little 3-day weekend. This is the weekend. This is where, like, Danger would be like, let me play the music that's inappropriate. I'm going for my fantasy baseball draft, Dandelion. That is going to be Saturday down at Blondie's in New York City. No, no, you are not Mike Danger. It's not that sort of place.
Have you looked at the screen? I think I am Mike Danger on the screen over there.
So that allows you. It gives you the. If you're watching on YouTube or Twitch, we got to get Derek on this. Like, hey, we have to have a Dandelion screen.
I believe I have one. Just probably one of the different buttons.
2D. Let's see if that is.
Is that better? Is that better?
That's it.
Hey!
See, he did put it in there.
Gino saved the day.
Yeah, it says 2D. All right, so there we go. You're no longer Mike Danger. You're Dan Drummy there. So yes, I will not be here tomorrow, and Danger's still on vacation. What I'm talking about is Monday. Now, like the schools are off. How many people are going to be going in? They're telling everybody, hey, be used to traffic or any scenario with our whole area being descended upon. For us, and granted, I understand, like, you're going to be outside looking at this, but for everybody that is listening or watching outside the area, if you want to kind of get a sense of what's going on Monday, we are going up on the roof. So for everybody outside of Rochester, we are in the district that's called the High Falls. So the baseball stadium 2 blocks away. And the High Falls, where we actually have a waterfall that goes through downtown. And I'm explaining this to people that we have a lot of listeners online in Buffalo that are looking for Bills news. We have a lot of people that are just, people from Rochester. But chances are you're listening to the show because you know Rochester. And High Falls, the area, this building was built in the 1880s. So we are going to go up on the roof, and we're going to do the broadcast live on Monday. And I guess the eclipse begins actually technically in the 2 o'clock hour. We don't get totality until the 3 o'clock hour.
I did not know that.
Yeah, so you're going up with us, right?
If you want me, Gino, if you want me there, I'll be there.
Quick take on the Major League Baseball, and could this get any more embarrassing for for Rob Manfred in the league here? And this still has to be approved, mind you, by the Players Association. But when the Jays played out at Buffalo, that was on a necessity.
Mm-hmm.
You couldn't get players over the border. We have to have a season. Okay, let's make something work. And you know what? Everybody made it work. It's a little different for a few reasons. One, you had how many years to plan something out? And you could have kept this team in Oakland, but they're going to this stadium in Sacramento. The stadium is actually smaller than our stadium in terms of capacity. Now, with the grassy berms, they could cram in 14,000. Okay, but are you calling them? Nobody's answered this unless you've seen something. Is it still the Oakland A's when they're in Sacramento? Are they going with the Sacramento A's? Are they getting a jump on the future with the Las Vegas A's? And oh, by the way, what if the stadium deal in Vegas falls through?
I kind of hope it does.
Well, that's why I'm wondering. This is the bet Sacramento is making. This is the Sacramento Kings owner kind of rolling out the red carpet. And it's almost like, hey, he's going to be trying to do his best to undermine the move here. And so, like, the A's are going to be this franchise potentially without a home. Unless at some point they go back to Oakland. This whole thing is a mess. And it is no leadership in Major League Baseball. There really isn't. Rob Manfred is not a good commissioner. I think we all can kind of agree on that. And I feel passionately about this because I feel bad for A's fans. We were talking to Mike Underwood, like, hey, there's been nobody at these A's games, but you can't fault the fans at all. Mm-hmm. Like, you're going to go support this guy? You're going to pay money to this owner? What should have happened long ago is baseball should have forced John Fisher, not the beginning of St. John Fisher, John Fisher, to sell. You've done it like other sports have done this. Granted, there's always been something that you could hold over him, where that was Sterling with the Clippers or Jerry Richardson with the Carolina Panthers. Like, you could find something that, hey, it is time to sell. And the idea that, hey, I think all of us would kind of agree that Oakland Coliseum is not really a place where you can play baseball in terms of making dollars, but Oakland has a plan for a new stadium, and they just don't want to go there. Other sports make it very difficult for you to move a team. For crying out loud, the NHL, like, they should have moved the Coyotes out of there 20 years ago, and for whatever reason, Gary Bettman is still doubling down on that. This is the total opposite. Like, you really, like, you have a stadium plan in place in Oakland, and you're not executing on that because, well, the owner just doesn't want to do it anymore at this point. So those are my 2 cents on that. Hey, how about the Amerks? They had a nice night last night, 6-1, over pretty quickly. 4 goals they put up in the first period, and Devin Levi's back. Dan, he's here to stay. They're not going to yo-yo him in these.
Yeah, I would think so. There's not many games left. I don't see unless something tragic happens to UPL or the goalie's up in Buffalo. I don't think he's going to be up. No, I don't want that. I'm just saying, unless something does happen and there's an emergency, I don't think he's going to be down up here. I think he's here for the long run now. The Amers are going to lock in, and they're going to go for the first spot in their division and try to win the whole thing.
But as you said, even still, like, if they aren't first, it's all good. I just didn't want the 4th or 5th. Second is good too, because second, hey, home ice against the Cleveland Monsters, a team that, okay, you beat on Saturday there in front of 15,000 in Cleveland. You beat last night, and can you get the home ice for that? Seth Appert will join us on the show on Tuesday. Interesting kind of swing here, because after all these divisional opponents, now you got to go play at Providence Saturday night and then Bridgeport Sunday afternoon. Those are kind of tough when you're playing in one city one night.
Yeah.
And then you have less than 24 hours in another city. Granted, there's not a lot of distance between Providence and Bridgeport, but still, that's a tough pot. So if the Amherst can split this weekend, I think I would sign up for that.
I wouldn't surprise me if they won them both. Really? I don't think Bridgeport is that good of a team. I think the Amherst are better than both Providence and Bridgeport, and I think the Amherst, we should be expecting 4 points.
The something came across my feed here, so it's going to be unusual because when usually where the Red Wings roll out their alter egos, they would never do it on an opening day. But this is going to be out of necessity because all these other rainouts. So they're going to go become the Moon Rocks in honor of the eclipse. And these uniforms for the Moon Rocks, actually, they're kind of sweet. Just, as you would imagine, all black here with the gray pants, the black high socks, black hats. So people might be into that, uniform kind of geeks kind of thing.
Yeah,
so.
Whenever the Red Wings put out, new merchandise and new uniforms, you think of like the plates uniforms, and they whatever Rochester puts out, the fans are gonna gobble it up immediately.
Yeah, that's the reason why you do this.
Yeah,
that's
take advantage of it.
Yeah, there's no doubt. So again, Red Wings rained out today. Hopefully they get that in tomorrow. Amherst coming up on Saturday. Also Saturday night, the Rochester Nighthawks. I went to the Nighthawk game Saturday night. Then look, it's a good time. Mm-hmm. It really is. I enjoyed my time going down there. I had just kind of hanging out. Got some good seats. Didn't go the Nighthawk way. Look, the goaltending, after they lost Hartley, their goaltender, it's been, kind of, I don't know if that was the main reason. There are certain things with the indoor game. I'm watching them like I don't understand all the rules when it comes to the indoor game as compared to the outdoor game. But one thing that is consistent between both the indoor and the outdoor game is if you have a face-off specialist, oh my gosh, it's such a benefit. Mm-hmm. And the idea that within 5 years, player goes from Canandaigua High School to now being one of the best.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, Joe Post, who again, I'm just curious how do you get into that? How do you excel at that? For example, Dan, you're a baseball player. How can you get better? You go to the batting cages. Yep. You work on drills. You're a hockey player. You get on the ice. Mm-hmm. You do drills. You're a face-off specialist. You got to go head-to-head against somebody else.
I imagine it's a craft that you just kind of.
How do you work that? How do you simulate that? That's It's difficult.
I assume it's like reps for any other sport. You just gotta, you try to mold your craft so that you're the best, one of the best in your field, and it's no different than hockey players, baseball players, football players.
That's what I'm going to ask one of our questions to Joe Post. He's coming up here. Time for your calls in the next segment, too, at 866-4326. 866-4FAN. Danger is in Florida this week. My name is Gene Battaglia. Dan DeLorean here as well. This is the Fan Rochester.
You're listening. Danger and Battaglia.
Stephon Diggs is now a member of the Texans.
What are we doing? Are we better today? Probably not. It's a work in progress. And I would just hope that people know I'm as competitive as hell. And I ain't giving in.
You really have to not like a player to eat that much dead cap space. To me, that's a McDermott thing. That's a McDermott decision.
But it does set him up to be in a great spot for the coming season.
But the idea that the Bills' window is closed when Josh Allen is 27 years old is one of the most asinine things I've ever heard. How could the window be closed when Allen is in his prime?
Because the window was barely open before.
Mike Danger.
This broadcaster is cursed. It feels like every time I break away for a week, something like this happens.
Gene Battaglia.
Should we lower our expectations for the Buffalo Bills here in 2024?
I got a lot of faith in this team, even in its current state.
It feels like now the Bills are just going to go old school, like ground and pound.
Dalton Kincaid is the number one option now. Like it or not, he's the guy.
It's not September.
95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
4 o'clock hour here today on this Thursday in the Flower City. We welcome you into the Sports Bar, where our phone number is 866-4FAN, 866-4326. We'll talk more about Steph Diggs here. We will talk to Kevin O'Clubshaw also about the Amerks, both on the ice and off the ice. He's with the Rochester Business Journal and Picking Splinters. I love the fact that we have the story from the Rochester Nighthawks that not only do you have a Section 5 guy, a Fisher guy excelling on the team, he's excelling. Joe Post, who not his first time on the show, first time on the phone. Last time we had him out at Three Heads for the unveiling here. And Joe, I was there Saturday night. Tough loss. Give us kind of like the state of the Rochester Nighthawks as you got New York coming in this Saturday night.
I think we're doing all right. I like what we got in our locker room. There's a good mix of young talent and veteran leadership, and I think we know that we can play with anyone. So I think we're still in a good spot.
Joe, and things I'm still learning about the indoor game and lacrosse in general here. I can't say X because technically it's a dot, okay? So I can't say face-off X. But as far as you on face-offs today, you're just over 60% on the season. What was that like going for the transition, going where you're facing the Nazareths and the Uticas and the Hartwicks of the world? Now you're facing grown men. You're facing some of the best in the world. What was that transition like, making the jump to the pros?
Took a little bit of time. I think just from the field game and the indoor game, there's a few little tweaks to the rules as well, so that took some getting used to. But I will say that I played a lot of good guys in D3 too, and when I got some good talent there. So, it wasn't just going against some kid who picked up a stick for the first time, but
sure,
they're definitely, some of the best in the world. And, for me, I'm still trying to learn and pick up some tricks every time I go against them and, steal some parts of their game to take into my game.
Yeah, Joe, I'm just so curious because, if you're in another sport and you're in baseball, you want to get better at the plate, well, go to the batting cage. You're Caitlin Clark, she's taking free throws. There's other. How do you, as a face-off specialist, when you don't have anybody to really kind of go against at your level, how do you prepare? How do you get better?
Well, I think one of the biggest things for me at this point in my career is just listen to a lot of whistles. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a lot about reaction time. But in this area, too, there's the Section 5, the Rochester area, there's a lot of good face-off guys, whether it's high school, college kids, other guys in the pros. So there is opportunities to meet up and take some extra reps as well.
Joe Post with the Rochester Nighthawks. They're home coming up Saturday night against the New York Riptide. There we go. Got that right. Who was the one that put you at the X originally, Joe? Was that in JV at Canandaigua? Does it go back earlier? When did you first start that?
I was probably 7th grade or so when I first started taking them, but didn't really take them seriously until I was a freshman in high school, so my JV year. And there was a coach in Canandaigua, Colin Carson, who was a former face-off guy, and he's the one that really showed me the ropes and taught me how to do it.
Who was the toughest guy in Section 5? Did you ever go up against Erlin? Were you guys together there in that time frame, or?
Yeah, he was the year above me, so I played him in high school.
Yeah, I would just think, like you mentioned, like people don't. Well, people in the in the lacrosse community realize this, and I tell everybody, hey, like one of the best areas in the country for lacrosse, it's right here in Section 5, and you face some of the best, Joe, and like we can kind of point to you and beam with pride.
Yeah, I think it's really cool, and for me now, I'm getting involved in high school lacrosse a little bit as a coach, and there is a lot of talent here, and it's pretty cool that most schools in this area will send 5, 6, 7 guys to go play college lacrosse every year. So this definitely is a hot spot for high school lacrosse.
One of the other things too, if for anybody that hasn't been to a Nighthawk game, in recent years, there's a big difference is that they're playing music all the time. There is always something kind of going on, but when you're listening for that whistle, like, do you have to, like, you kind of brought this up a little bit earlier, but you actually have to practice listening to in that environment. And is that the same when you're on the road as well? Is it like you're having the music and everything going on in the background?
Yeah, in my first couple games, that was definitely an adjustment because it's not just music playing; it's blaring in there. They turn it up nice and loud. But as I've kind of settled in, I tone it out, and I don't really hear it as much, I guess.
I have a friend, Mark Engel. I think he's at Brighton now, coach. In fact, I know he's at Brighton, but he taught me the phrase. I'm just starting to learn this. Fogo. Are you a Fogo? You're not a Fogo with the Nighthawks, are you? Like, for anybody that doesn't know, face off, get off. Like, that's kind of the thing. Like, do you have the green light there, Joe? Like, what parameters do you have?
So the box game itself has been pretty new to me. And kind of the plan with the coaching staff in Rochester was bring me on to take faceoffs and kind of teach me how to play defense. So as time goes on, I think I'm becoming more comfortable with that. And, I take a few D shifts every game, so I'm not playing as much as, a starting defenseman, but I am facing off and playing a little bit of D as well.
Yeah. I mean, Joe Post, our guest here as the Nighthawks, taking on New York here. What do we know about this opponent Saturday night, Joe? Like, what are you going to be going up against here?
They got one of the better guys to do it. He's been doing it for a while. But as a team, they're pretty solid and kind of in a similar situation to us where it's getting down to it, and it's playoff lacrosse for both of us right now. We got to, stack together a few wins here before the end of the season to make it into the playoffs.
Yeah, it's you got a lot of offense on this team, Joe. I mean, do you ever sit back and watch some of these guys with their craft? I mean, it's just kind of incredible just seeing some of your teammates.
Every day. I mean, every practice, the things that these guys can do. And really, in the Nighthawks and across the league, it's an incredible talent, and they're very, very skilled individuals. And, I'm a fan, so I like to watch it as well.
Who you mentioned you're helping coach. Who are you helping? I wasn't aware. Like, who are you helping the coach this spring, Joe?
Canandaigua.
Okay.
I'm from Canandaigua, and I'm a teacher here as well, so I've been getting involved in Canandaigua sports as a coach.
Gray Wolves. Is it still taking a little adjustment here?
It is. It definitely is.
Yeah, I guess it's one of those things. But I kind of I can respect everything like that. But for folks that don't know, like there are like lacrosse communities, and then there's Canandaigua. Like, what is it like? What was it like for you playing Canandaigua lacrosse, Joe?
It's a town behind you, and Canandaigua's not huge, but it's a really cool environment where you're growing up, and just about every kid that I grew up with that played sports played lacrosse, and playing with my best friends and my buddies, and it's a pretty cool atmosphere, and you can have the support from businesses that'll feed you dinner after the game, and you go somewhere and a little kid will recognize you, and so it's a pretty special place to grow up and play high school lacrosse.
Yeah, I would think that they got to be beaming with pride too. That you're getting a chance to be in the pros here, Joe. And we were having this conversation, like if you could kind of get in a time machine, like 50 years from now, 75 years from now, like what will professional indoor lacrosse look like? And I would just say, well, I mean, in the NBA back in the 1940s or the 50s when that was first being born, like, yeah, everybody else had other jobs and it was all kind of part-time. But how do you see the sport kind of growing here in the future? You're going to be like one of the, the founders here.
Yeah, it's every year I think it's becoming a little bit bigger, a little bit more popular. Americans are starting to sneak into the game. It's been mostly Canadians for the past, since 20 years or whenever the league started. But I think the game itself is just growing, field and box together. And I'm excited to see where it goes. And I don't think it's going to be too long before the NLL is one of the next major sports leagues.
Well, Joe, appreciate the time. Again, the Nighthawks Saturday night taking on the New York Riptide, and we're partial to our own here, Joe. So go get them Saturday night. Thanks for your time today.
Yep, thanks, guys.
Yeah, Joe Post, Rochester Nighthawks. Again, it's a really cool story. Like we're provincial in this town, but when somebody goes from high school to one of our local teams, and I guess if we did the exercise, we could point to players that played for local teams. Certainly with the Amherst, like right at the top, Brian Gianta, and that's at the top of my mind because he was there with his brother Steven last night. But Gianta dressing one game for the Amherst and scoring in the one game, and certainly that was kind of fun. But you have other instances, like I think Wayne Wilson's son, who certainly grew up and played, here in Rochester as a youth, and then had a couple games with the Amherst. I mean, there are other instances of the Amherst, like local guys that go on to play with the big team. Ernie Clement, not with the Red Wings, but he played down the road in Buffalo again. And we're trying to connect with Ernie like one of these days. Tim Schneider's gotten a pretty good relationship with the Toronto Blue Jays utility man. Somebody that also wants to write in, like guys that like not the professional athletes, Section 5 guys that actually played in the pros here. Like the Razor Sharks, when they were a thing, it was called a team. That was like all Section 5 guys. When I'm talking like the teams where you're, the Amherst or the Red Wings, it's got to be more Nighthawk guys. Dan is like
I'm thinking.
Yeah, like you got your thinking hat on.
It's not coming to me though at the moment.
Yeah, that's it. That's fine. We've got Kevin O'Klubja coming up here. We'll talk to him about. He's got the story in the Rochester Business Journal about the Pagulas not, putting in a bid. It's going up for bid here, like a different arena manager. Is this nothing? Is it something? Why? But I think really what hockey fans want to know is this is going to be the year for the Rochester Americans. Do they have the kind of makeup? And they've got some talent on the blue line, young talent. Like we all focus on Kulik. We all focus on Devin Levi, which understandable. But is the blue line better than it was last year? And also I would say this. I love Subban in the playoffs last year. Levi's better. Last night, Subban took the loss. He's with Cleveland now, in case you didn't know. And so the pieces are there. And I don't want to answer the question for Kevin. This is my take. The pieces are there to make another deep run. Sometimes in hockey, though, it is a random sport, as you know, Dan. Like, the best team doesn't always win. It's just a couple bounces here or there. Sorry, I'm coughing in your ear.
That's okay, Gino.
I have had this on again, off again cold for like 3 months here. I don't want to make you sick, Dan.
You better not, Gino.
I better not.
You better not.
So, but that's my question is how deep can the Amherst kind of go here, and that's what could prevent them from going? Well, number one, hockey. Number two, there are other good teams in this division, but we'll get the thoughts of Kevin O'Klubja, and then also too, and I hate this about college sports because it hit home. The portal. I don't hate the portal itself, but I hate the idea that Sunday night, here's the NCAA bracket, pick your games. Monday, the portal opens up? What? In college hockey, I think it's worse. Like the portal opening up while the tournament is in mid-season. Like, RIT gets eliminated to Boston University on a Thursday, and then on Easter Sunday, you find out you lose your leading playmaker and your top goalie? Come on. Like, who are you benefiting with that? You're talking about young men and women who are making major decisions. You can't give that a half beat. You can't, like, push that off a little bit. You can't let emotions kind of calm down. Now, in the case of Carter Wilkie, and I've talked to people, he thinks that his best path for getting an NHL two-way contract is not to accept the AHL sort of deal or ECHL deal. It's to go to a bigger high-profile program, and therefore when you're playing against talented conferences, that maybe it's not an RIT thing. And we talked about this last week, Dan. It's an Atlantic hockey thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of the issue in play here, and this is what the administration at RIT is going to have to ask themselves, like sooner or later, like, hey, like this is going to be a cycle here. Like, you're going to bring in top players, and then when those top players but then again, I guess any mid-major is going to go through this, whether it's basketball or hockey or anywhere else. It's just, I don't like this. So Kevin will give his thoughts, and I'm sure Kevin's more level-headed than I am. In fact, I know he's more level-headed than I am. Although I was pretty level-headed about the Mets today. They had a 3-0 lead, and they lost. I'm starting to act like you, by the way. I'm acting like you, Dan. Do you realize this? Like, we're just like, whatever, I don't really care. I feel like everybody that would come at me as a Met fan, I take away their power.
Do I take away people's power?
I'm learning from you. I'm learning from you, where I have the sixth sense that this is not going to be a year where I just say I'm not going to get emotional. Okay, well then you could take your little shots. You could take everything else. The Mets are 0-5 now. The Marlins are 0-7. Like, yeah.
So the Mets should be reaching for greater success by losing all their games. See how far they can drag this out.
Yeah.
Just as long as you can, just lose.
That would be something here. I've got breaking news, Dan.
Gino, no, don't do this to me right now.
Ow! It really hit me. I didn't know it was coming back that far.
Mike Garofalo reporting the Buffalo Bills have agreed to terms with a veteran offensive lineman, Lale Collins. That's interesting. So Lale Collins coming to Buffalo after all. He was the player, Dan, that, remember, he was going to go in the first round, but then...
His whole video with him and his...
Yes.
I don't know, how do you...
You remember this?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that kind of leaks out, and Buffalo didn't draft him. In fact, a lot of teams didn't draft him. But
didn't he go to, like, Miami or something? Or didn't he fall? He fell.
He falls, but he's coming over from Dallas. So he drafted by Dallas to Cincinnati, going back to Dallas.
Okay.
So a player that we're all familiar with. He's 30 years old. So maybe this is your swing tackle candidate, because you had a good year with Spencer Brown, no doubt, and you have a quality left tackle in Deion Dawkins. But what's behind these guys? A lot of guys that you feel good about. Well, this is a veteran that you're going to bring into the mix. So Lale Collins, the newest Buffalo Bill. We can discuss that as well. Phone number, 866-4FAN. My name is Gene Battaglia. Dan DeLorean here. Danger's out today on the Fan Rochester.
Neat or on the rocks? It's the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
As we're trying to track down Kevin O'Klubja, wanted to kind of invite him on today because to me it's interesting because you turn back the clock like 2017, 2018 when we were looking at the arena and the management and thinking about development and how we could, get more people downtown and why not have the Pagulas who run the arena in Buffalo do it in Rochester. Now they're pulling back, and I think that's worth kind of exploring and also talking about the Amerks themselves. So we'll get Kevin on the line here hopefully in just a little bit. Talk about me not knowing my NFL draft videos. Just and appreciate the people that did call in here. La'el Collins, that's not the gas mask. That's Laramie Tunsil. So Laramie Tunsil, gas mask. La'el Collins, he was projected to go top 10 in the draft, but what ended up happening was somehow, there was an allegation pre-draft about a shooting death of a pregnant woman who he previously had a relationship, and even though he was not considered a suspect in the crime, there were rumors that scared off all these teams that, and the agents basically said, hey, look, don't draft our client here. Like once the first round left, if you want our client, and good job by the agents, you will have to actually pay him accordingly like a first round pick would. And good on the Cowboys because that's kind of what they did. It was a contract that was comparable to a first round pick. So he's been in the league for some time now, since 2015, and that's the new signing for the Buffalo Bills today, La'el Collins. And I remember at the time thinking, well, if you're Doug Whaley, why not just spend a 7th-round pick, ignore the wishes of the agent? But that wouldn't have been good business by any stretch. So another body that the Bills are bringing in, this is a big body, La'el Collins at 6'4", 315, going to add some depth there on the offensive line, a guy that is started in 89 games in the season. And I said it was announced by the Bills. It was actually Mike Garofalo with the report, so the Bills have not come out with that just as of yet. Still a lot of meat on the Diggs bone here if you want to talk about Stephon Diggs here too, as Diggs going to Houston, and they're just... With any trade, you want to feel good for both sides, right? And this is the part where we look at this, and there's just some things that are unsettling here. Like the Bills, for one, right, coming out, and this is the obvious point, they're weaker at wide receiver. They didn't get a wide receiver in return in this deal. You could get a draft pick, but that's not what we're talking about. I'm talking about the trade itself. Makes you weaker right now. It hurts your cap. It does. In fact, you're taking it all this year, and you added $3 million more additional to get to 31 dead. That's not a good thing. And then the other part that you don't feel good about on this is that you're adding some fuel here to another team that actually made the postseason last year. Now, granted, they flamed down in Baltimore, but the Houston Texans, young team that could take that next step next year. They won their division last year. They could be the team that could make some noise. And the idea that soon hasn't happened yet. Maybe it has. I haven't been paying that much attention. But yesterday, the odds shifted from the Texans being behind the Buffalo Bills in the futures market to being right there alongside Cincinnati and Buffalo. There was Houston. That could be a little bit of overreaction, but I think that the narrative is going to be that Houston is a team that is up and coming and that the Buffalo Bills are a team that is on the decline. I am not going to tell you to not be worried, not be concerned, because I don't know the plan here for Brandon Beane. That's what makes this interesting, right? There's more to the story here. There's more to the story as far as why Diggs was traded that we're not aware of. I was going to go privy, but like what actually led up to it? What was the final straw? Was this decided on in the exit meetings at the end of the season? Was it decided last June and everybody decided to play nice here for 1 year? That's a possibility too. Or could it be the fact that Diggs asked for this trade and the fact that Brandon Beane didn't deny that. I guess we're not getting Kevin, or we kind of lost.
Couldn't get through, so
couldn't get through.
Kept calling, but I wasn't getting.
Maybe there's breaking news somewhere in hockey that he's chasing down.
Could be.
Maybe like we had her lined up originally yesterday. I said, "Hey, can we do it again tomorrow?" He's like, "Yeah, that'd be totally fine." And so we'll work on getting Kevin here. But that gives us more time to talk about Steph Diggs, and it gives us time to talk to you at 866-4326, 866-4FAN. The idea that Steph Diggs is no longer Buffalo Bill leaves the cupboard bare at wide receiver. It really does. Khalil Shakir ideally is a 3. As a 2, yeah, maybe. He's not a number 1. Mac Hollins maybe is a 5. I didn't view Mac Hollins as being a guarantee on this roster, but all of a sudden he's a 2 or a 3. And you've got Justin Shorter, you've got KJ Hamler, you got Curtis Samuel, but even Curtis Samuel is a 2. Like, that is not a unit that's going to scare anybody. So not only did the Bills kind of say, hey, we're drafting a wide receiver, you've got to go out and get one of the 3 best. And the trade here, I believe, is going to be this. I think Brandon Beane, based on his history, will be moving up. I don't think there's any question about that. The question is, how far and for who and what do you give up? You get this second-round pick next year from Minnesota. You can package 2 second-rounders and maybe next year's first, and that might get you to 10. That might get you to a wide receiver. It's one of those drafts where if you want to see where the Buffalo Bills pick, you can't afford to tune in late here. You have to really kind of from the top here. And I don't think they're going to go up and get a Marvin Harrison. But what about Odunze from Washington? What if? And now we really get to kind of look and root for quarterbacks to kind of go in this draft. Meaning, all right, if it does go quarterback, what does that mean? You have chatter today that a quarterback that we didn't think would be in the first round. But now I'm seeing, he could be top 15. I'm like, really? Michael Penix Jr. I like Penix a lot, dating back to his days in Indiana. I like the fact that he led Washington to a place where Washington football hadn't been in how many years, since probably Warren Moon. Michael Penix is a winner, but is he a pro quarterback? Is he a first rounder? Well, we got to root now for some team to take a chance on Michael Penix. If you're a Buffalo Bills fan, draft night became very, very interesting here in the last day here, because I had to switch my position 180 on this altogether, meaning, all right, the Bills are actually going to take the best defensive player, because I look at the safeties, I look at Mike Edwards, I look at Taylor Rapp, and then I'm like, I don't know if that's the future or not. I know, Dan, you could say, like, when Poyer and Hyde came in, we were probably saying the same thing. And that's a fair critique. Maybe Edwards is that guy that Kansas City didn't use the right way. But it would also be kind of, also in my opinion, to see like the Bills also go on the defensive line. I thought that you would have an edge rusher there in Chop Robinson. Perhaps you get a defensive tackle at some point. But with this trade today, that goes all out the window. That you have to go wide receiver in the first round. And the question is, at 28, will Brandon Beane feel comfortable enough letting the draft come to him? By his history, the answer is no. I don't believe that for a second. I think you're moving up. The question is, are you willing to sacrifice a couple second-rounders that you have this year? Are you willing to flip next year's number one? Because if you do get one of those wide receivers and you're not paying that wide receiver and you really think that wide receiver can do it all, well, maybe you've upgraded. That's why Brandon Beane yesterday was just kind of saying, hey, everybody, chill out. It's April. What day is it? April 3rd, April 4th? It was April 3rd yesterday. Today is April 4th. But his point being, let's wait till September. What he really wanted to say I'm pretty sure, is let's wait until the draft, right? Dandalorian, our fine producer today, keeping us on track.
We have Al calling and wants to talk about Stephon Diggs.
Al, what's going on, buddy? How are you today, sir?
Hi, how are you today?
You know, Al, I wish we had opening day for the Red Wings. I wish the Mets would win a game here. That would be nice here. But I cannot complain. Everything's great. How are you today, buddy?
All right. Well, I'm as great as a Rochester day. So here's my issue. Right, you've mismanaged Josh Allen. Okay, you had the franchise quarterback in his rookie years under his rookie contracts. You couldn't win. Right. And now the question is, what do you do? And it's real obvious. When you start peeling back the onion and you get rid of Diggs, and now there's no number one receiver, the next thing you got to do is get rid of Allen and try for another rookie quarterback and wipe away the tears and just say, we didn't do it, we couldn't do it. I think Bills fans really need to take heed of that. And I really think right now is the perfect time to trade Josh Allen, because I think you get some real draft picks because the team you're going to put on the field is not capable of winning.
Okay. Al, do you want to have a back and forth here? Because here would be my counter argument, as if I'm a lawyer. Okay, my counter argument to you would be this: like, it's easy to find another quarterback like this. If it were easy, okay, I'd listen to that. I wouldn't even. This goes back to, like, we had a guy. I don't know if you heard this, but Ryan Hickey from CBS Sports kind of had the same take as you. Said, hey, trade Josh Allen to Chicago, get a boatload of picks, and you're going to get Caleb Williams, which I would say, okay, but how many times do you see these quarterbacks just go, I don't want a Baker Mayfield. Certainly don't want a Josh Rosen. So the idea that you're just going to throw that all to the wind, I mean, it's ask anybody who doesn't have a quarterback. Are you a Bills fan, Al?
Oh, no question. But my major issue is, without a number one receiver, you want to close your eyes and hope one of these young kids turns into a number one. It doesn't work that way. Right? You can hope and pray all you want. This is the NFL. It doesn't work that way. You need a number one. You've given your number one away for whatever the reason is, whether he wanted to go or you wanted to go. Josh Allen, at this point in time, putting a team around him has been mismanaged.
I don't think you need a number one, though, Al. I like, wow. Go back. No. Like, listen, you give me, like, big time receivers like your Antonio. Well, he didn't win as a number one. He was kind of playing second fiddle to Mike Evans by the time he finally got a ring. Like, the number one target sucker doesn't necessarily get his team to the Super Bowl. And the easy counter argument to your point, Al, is like, hey, Kansas City let go of Tyreek Hill. And sure, they had Travis Kelce, and I'm not ready to put...
And that's beautiful. And then you're going to jump to Josh Allen's is Mahomes. Come on, are you really going to do that?
No, what I'm saying, though, is that I would rather take a known franchise quarterback. Is that can we agree on that Josh Allen is a franchise quarterback?
Oh, there's no question. Who's been mismanaged?
When was the last time a franchise quarterback in their prime was traded like that? It never happens. Never happens.
Right. So all you're going to see this year, right, in our tiers is what happened. Diggs leaving is such an earth-shattering occurrence, right? It's so earth-shattering to Bills fans, right? When there's not a number one, you're hoping, hey, but we have a number 3, 4, and 5, and we got 6 tight ends, and hey, guys, go long, and I'll throw the ball. It's just not the way it works. Number ones, I think receivers are just as hard to come by as number one quarterbacks. And when you have that marriage and you mismanage the marriage, I think you got to say, let's start all over again.
No, I like, Al, you're making points, and I hear you. But this is the fun part about sports talk. I mean, yes, the irony, like, you brought in Diggs, you flipped the 22 pick. Like, Minnesota got, like, a number one receiver, like, with pick 22, right? The Bills wouldn't have to move up all that far here. I think the answer lies in the draft. can you suspend judgment? I sell ads
No. As a lawyer, you have to look at the deal itself. The deal was awful for the Buffalo Bills. It was an awful deal. If I owned that team and you came to me with this deal, I would say, get out the door. Walk out the same door you walked in. Now you're going to hope and pray. You're going to be at the altar of the draft to hope and pray that you're able to pull a number one out of there. Good luck. It was an awful deal.
All right, so there's another angle to this too, Al, is that if Diggs wanted out, and you could say, your counter-argument, I'm already kind of moving ahead here. Like you would say, hey, he was mismatched. Okay, fine. But when you get that employee that doesn't want to be here, see, there's like the whole story here. Did Diggs ask out? If he did, when did he ask out, and why? If he didn't want to be here, I would think the whole league would have known that.
You know who I want in the huddle every game? You know who I want in the huddle? The guy that says, I don't care who's out there, throw me the ball. Even if I'm triple covered, throw me the ball. That's what a winner does. Diggs was a winner. People got offended. Oh, maybe he's putting too much pressure on Josh. Maybe Josh should be looking at the other receivers. He's a guy who said, look, I'm going to burn it down the field and throw me the ball. I want the guy who says, throw me the ball on my team.
I don't want the guy, though, that's going to undermine the team with the passive-aggressive tweets and going at the head coach and doing some sort of things. I mean, we're not talking about Jerry Rice here. Like, Steph Diggs was an all-pro, and he's on the wrong side of 30. Al, look.
Hey, well, I want you to stick with that, what you just said.
Okay.
On the wrong side of 30 and not a pro, and we'll talk again at the end of the year, because I think you're going to see how you're going to see next year there will be a for sale sign on Josh Allen.
Wow. All right, Al. The tape is rolled here, buddy. You'll I appreciate you can either say you were right or I was right. Appreciate you listening, Al. Thanks very much.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
Have a good day. Al, ladies and gentlemen, who says the Buffalo Bills should trade Josh Allen. What did you just walk into? This is our sales manager, Tim Thompson.
What was that?
Well,
Josh Allen's for sale.
It's like Odyssey on Odyssey Crime, but WFAN is actually talking about this. We're in silly season here, Tim. Well, why don't we have the Giants should be making a pitch? I'm like, stop with this, Dan. Who do we got, bud?
We have Mike in Sodas Bay.
Mike, set us straight here, Mike.
Live from Captain Jack's.
Hey, that's right. I'm calling to bring some reason back to the show. Alan, oh Lord. Was he a troll? My gosh. We can't get Josh Allen.
No.
We waited long to have the franchise quarterback. Having a franchise quarterback means you're always competitive and there and able to win. I agree with getting rid of Diggs. The team that we left off the field last year wasn't going to win a Super Bowl. All the retooling, at least they're trying. Getting rid of Diggs, I think, was the right move. Maybe he's good. I believe, knowing Diggs, he'll have a great year for Houston, but that'll be it. I think he's on his way down, and so I just can't imagine somebody that calls themselves a Bills fan would want to trade Josh Allen. I'm beside myself out here at Sodas Bay.
But I think you bring up a good point. I mean, I'm listening to the takes and I'm trying to determine is this trolly or is it? And I think it was more of a defense of Diggs. And I can't say here, Mike, that the Bills are better today than they were yesterday or 2 days ago. They are weaker at wide receiver. And in the plan, we don't know the plan. Like, what is Brandon Beane's plan? And I like everybody. I'm listening to One Bills Live. Go get T. Higgins. Go get Brandon Ayuk. Folks, with what money? There's nothing left in the cap. The answer lies in the draft. And what I see here is I don't see Brandon Beane going up to Bud. I don't see him trying to line one back in the middle. He is swinging for the fences here, Mike. And I'm just trying to caution everybody, hey, Are you comfortable with trading next year's number 1 to go get a Dunze? Are you comfortable actually sending 5 picks like the Falcons did once upon a time for Julio Jones to Cleveland and going up against Marvin Harrison Jr.? If Harrison Jr. falls to 5, I better believe Brandon Beane's going to be making a call there. So you've reset the clock at the wide receiver position here. Now, Mike, thank you. You add some levity to the show. It's kind of crazy here.
Mike.
Yeah, we like Mike. Mike is good. He comes out to 3 heads.
Has there any team in the league ever been so scrutinized, or a quarterback, as much as Josh Allen? Just about the window closing, this constant just drip. Look at the whole league. Why is it the Bills? Why is the national media so on top of attacking this guy? This beast.
I will answer the question. Of terms of athletes today in any sport that have yet to win the big one, where you say why? He may not be at number 1, but he's in the conversation.
Absolutely.
The best. They have had some mind-bending losses here.
Yeah.
So what is it going to take to get over the top? And the answer so far this offseason is, hey, we're going to have to change the cast of characters, and some of this was necessitated by the cap, but the idea that you would give up a franchise quarterback. Anybody that wants to entertain this, point to me the team that did this.
No.
It never, ever happens. Sure, you get the Colts who let Peyton Manning walk because they have the number 1 overall pick. That's different. I'm talking about franchise quarterback at 27. And this enraged me when we had Ryan Hickey on CBS Sports say, yeah, the Bills should trade for number 1 overall pick, and that's good. No, I don't know if Caleb Williams is going to be good. Take a look at all these first-round quarterbacks, and this is what I'm going to tell anybody, whether it's Williams, whether it's Penix, whoever goes in the first round, the guy from Michigan, the guy from LSU, maybe 1 will work out?
Maybe.
1, maybe 2.
Yeah.
Dan, who you got, buddy?
Chris calling from Greece wanted to respond to Al.
Chris? All right. Are you pro or con Al here?
I am definitely con Al. So
that's a new movie, Con Air, Con Al.
Con Al, absolutely. Oh, that was awful. I don't know if he was implying he was a lawyer, but if he was, I wouldn't take him. So here's my thing. He said, I want a guy who wants the ball. I don't care if I'm triple covered. That's exactly the problem. And I liken this to 2 years ago when Josh Allen started spreading the ball around to people that were not Stephon Diggs. And Gabe Davis had a great year. The problem is they struck that with Gabe Davis this year, and he started dropping the ball. Then he got hurt. But Stephon Diggs declined. So it's not a huge drop-off. And, yeah, he is still number 1. But when you got a guy that is a drama queen like that needs the ball, and you had a young quarterback like Josh Allen was in his first couple of years, he's going to force the ball. And we already know Allen has a problem forcing the ball. So, no, Al, you're wrong.
Chris, thank you very much. Look, if anybody says, hey, he's on to something, but I don't see it. You're going to, because you traded Steph Diggs, I'll listen to the argument the Bills didn't get back enough. I think at this point, the timing of this, Tim, that's one of the questions I have. And being ducked at yesterday, just saying, well, that was the best offer.
Joe Mixon tweeted that they've been conspiring.
Yeah.
With, who knows to what level, but you look at the drop off on Diggs. It was, I couldn't believe how many times last year, I think you and I were talking, being at games, a couple games I went to, but also just noticing that Diggs, how often did he take himself out of games where we were just wondering, why did he take himself out? In the playoffs, against Kansas City, there were a few key elements in the key plays in the fourth quarter and the third quarter. He, even on a first down route, he didn't get the ball waving on, he went off the field. And then we're wondering why is Sherfield and Hardy getting key targets? And they clearly dropped the ball. We didn't have a great performance out of them.
Yeah,
but why was Diggs? It was like he was managing his load.
That's one of the theories about the load management. The other thing is too, it's not just Diggs. could have been the coaching staff. The idea that second half against the Patriots, it's not decided. It's only halftime. Bills have the ball at the beginning of the third quarter. Wait a second, Diggs isn't out there for the series?
Yeah.
He's not out there for an entire series. He comes out for the second series, and his teammates kind of give him fits, bumps him, like, okay, what is that? Oh, we're just no. In management, I think Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott have actually done a good thing, and it's there's a story here.
Absolutely.
And they're taking the high road.
Yeah.
You don't need to know, because I'm sure there are little things and everything that can make the receiver look bad, certainly. And you know what? Take the high road. Don't get dragged in all this, and you just kind of move on. And now my expectation has been, hey, take the best defensive player coming up in the first round of the draft. No. But the idea, how big a swing does Brandon Beane make here, Tim?
Well, if you look at what Kansas City did a few years ago when they basically got rid of Tyreek, there was a lot of talk, they're rebuilding. What they do, they won the Super Bowl with Kadarius Toney with his shaved eyebrows. Always odd.
Sky Moore.
And Juju. And really, but Kelsey was the anchor. You look at Brady, the last couple of years. I mean, the last Super Bowl they won, Malcolm Mitchell was their number one receiver, one of those years going into the next season.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you look at the receiver salaries and you go, a lot of the teams in the last 10, 12 years, Hakeem Nicks in 2011 was the Golden Tate was the number one receiver for the Seahawks. These heavy receiver salaries anchor teams down. A lot of times they're willing to rebuild. If you have the quarterback like a Mahomes, like a Josh, you can rebuild around them. And really, again, the receiving core, they have to go younger. But now the formula is going to be, can we get a couple rookie contracts and strike and build around and rebuild other parts of the team and not be anchored to a $28 million salary this year.
Yeah. And I'm also wondering too, Tim, because as I'm trying to timeline this out, Von Miller took a pay cut. We're like, wow, okay. And maybe he did that for PR reasons. There are a lot of reasons that he might have done that, but all right, like Von, like you won a little bit of goodwill, you probably earned yourself. I'd have to think that Brandon Beane called up the agent for Steph, and Diggs has no obligation to do that whatsoever.
Yeah.
So, like, I'm wondering if at some point you're like, hey, you want to take a pickup? No, I think I'm good.
Well, as of today, now it's become a 1-year deal, so he's a free agent.
Yeah.
So now basically we traded Steph Diggs for a 1-year rental for a second-round pick. It's not you don't get a second-round pick usually for a guy like that. I mean, I know we threw in the 5 and the 6, but in the flexibility for next year, that all that cap is freed up, and Josh is 28. And it's a smart move. Back in the days of Buddy Nix wouldn't have made this move. All the years of the drought. I mean, it's a difficult but a smart move. And
people writing in, Peter writing in, this Jets fan is pro Al. Trade Josh Allen. Obviously, if you're a Bills fan, that's a horrendous take.
Trent Edwards is still on the streets.
Bob writing in. Hey, Danger. Well, it's funny. Danger's not here, but we should trade our number 1 draft pick and next year's number 1 and number 2 and trade with Arizona and get the number 4 I'll pick Marvin Harrison Jr. We're all going to be dialed in, Bob, at the top of the draft. That's for sure. We're behind on breaks. Let's take a timeout here, and then we'll take more of your calls. Happy hour here. More to explode. A lot of meat on the bone about the Steph Diggs trade. Our phone number, 866-4FAN, 866-4326. It's the Fan Rochester.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
Stephon Diggs is now a member of the Texans.
What are we doing? Are we better today? Probably not. It's a work in progress. And I would just hope that people know I'm as competitive as hell. And I ain't giving in.
You really have to not like a player to eat that much dead cap space. To me, that's a McDermott thing. That's a McDermott decision.
But it does set him up to be in a great spot for the coming season.
But the idea that the Bills' window is closed when Josh Allen is 27 years old is one of the most asinine things I've ever heard. How could the window be closed when Allen is in his prime?
Because the window was barely open before.
Mike Danger.
This broadcaster is cursed. It feels like every time I break away for a week, something like this happens.
Gene Battaglia.
Should we lower our expectations for the Buffalo Bills here in 2024?
I got a lot of faith in this team, even in its current state.
It feels like now the Bills are just kind of going to go old school, like ground and pound.
Dalton Kincaid is the number one option now. Like it or not, he's the guy.
It's not September.
95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
Happy hour in the sports bar as we roll along here. As we learned here in the last hour that Steph Diggs, giving back a lot of money. It was year number 1 of this 4-year extension that he could have collected eventually $96 million on it. But now he's going to be a free agent. So we welcome in the pride of Irondequoit lacrosse, Tim Thompson.
No.
You were part
of the Odyssey Fantasy League, though.
Oh, stop with that.
6 titles.
You know what? No one cares about your fantasy team.
I know.
That's a fact in life here.
Kidding.
Tim, Diggs is going to be a free agent. You're going to have a motivated, you're Houston. You gave up a second-round pick for 1 year.
They put all their chips in. They've got a rookie quarterback contract, which makes sense. How's Diggs going to like it when Nico Collins and Tank Dell are getting way too many targets?
Well, that's also something interesting. You're bringing this element in there where you had this young offense that really didn't need this.
Didn't have an alpha.
Really. It's a little risky on Houston's standpoint that you got to kind of put the idea in C.J. Stroud's head that make sure you're getting Diggs' targets, make sure that he's going to be there, and he'll be the one that lets you know, hey, that you're throwing it off, or you ran the wrong route. You brought up something interesting to me off air because I compliment how Bean and McDermott. You could say you don't like everything about this, and I get that, but I like the way they've handled this, which is above board. They're not getting petty. There's a lot to the story that we don't know about. I'd love to know about. We would eat that up. It would be like fast food. We would yum, yum, yum. Very good. Why did you make this move? And Bean didn't give us anything. McDermott's not available. But there's one relative of a coach that kind of dropped something.
Yeah, Brooke Cromer, daughter of O-line coach Aaron Cromer, who's done one heck of a job. Yeah, she tweeted yesterday when this all went down, she just said, good riddance with a peace out emoji. There's always a reason and there's always a plan. And then hashtag trust the process. And she works for NFL Network. She loves Buffalo. They lived here years ago, and then now Cromer comes back. But clearly, she knows things. She's not going to say, here's what happened. But there's something to read into that, the way that's written. Clearly, when she's like, there's always basically something behind the scenes. Don't judge it by its cover. And we all know that. We could tell last year. Actually, it was funny because it was right when the smog hit the Northeast. I remember that was when the mini camp happened, and there was no sun, and then Diggs left mini camp. But we knew then that there was something because remember McDermott's reaction.
Oh, we have this.
Off guard.
Yeah, we have this. So this you have to go back in time to get the sense of this. And look, Diggs wasn't right, but the way McDermott handled this, I think he couldn't have handled this any worse.
Steph is not here. Everybody else is here at the current time.
How concerned are you about that?
Oh, very concerned. Yeah, very concerned. I'm not going to get into and listen. I respect everyone's questions and what they want to know about our team. Right now, I'm not going to get into that anymore. So we'll talk about practice. Happy to do that. Happy to answer those questions, and we'll move forward from there.
How much does it hurt to not have Steph here this week? I mean, you don't have a game for 3 months, but on the other hand, there are a number of new offensive pieces that you're trying to acclimate into an offense.
Yeah, I mean, when players miss, in particular a player of Steph's caliber, you love to have those players here. So, but overall, been pleased with the attendance and the guys' effort.
Well, that was mandatory minicamp, and we found out, an hour later that Steph Diggs actually was there and he was sent home. Again, that's part of the story. What was in that argument? And I've heard stories, but nothing I could go on the air with. But one thing I think we can deduce safely is Diggs requested a trade. The fact that Brandon Beane didn't, skipped over that when he was asked about it. The question is when.
Sure.
And how long has this been going on? Like you go back to that, and everybody, training camp, everybody played nice, and Diggs talked to the media and everything else. But was that a whole year where, like, hey, last year it was impossible, I guess, to trade Diggs or acquiesce to his request. This year they found a way to do it. So I'm just wondering if this request just didn't happen at the end of the season in February or locker cleanout day in January. This happened long, long ago.
Well, it clearly boiled over from the Bengals game. When Steph, he left, and I think it was Duke Johnson chased him down when Steph left before even the media got to the locker room. And look, regardless, that was a terrible game. We know that.
Mm-hmm.
And then that was sort of that bled into the minicamp in the offseason. But McDermott's if you just watched, I remember watching his emotional reaction. He literally was shell-shocked. He was emotionally distraught. So whatever occurred caught them not only off guard, but you could tell it was almost, when he said, well, I don't want to address it, the irony is you just did. You just made it worse.
Right.
You actually did address it, and you you threw a match onto this whole gas can. But I don't blame him either. I mean, again, however that was handled, it's just here we are, going into 2020. We didn't know what the Bills were going to be. Josh had come off that Houston Sugar High game, the playoff game. Steph Diggs comes on board, and obviously COVID hits. The trajectory of Josh and Steph together, though, it's like which one was more important to the other. It's like Belichick and Brady. Some people, Jerry Rice, Joe Montana. You look at pairings in the NFL. I think Josh can be fine.
Well,
I do.
If one thing, the team is a lot less fun.
Yeah.
You lost a star.
Yeah.
We don't have many stars here in Western New York. I would say the Sabres right now, Dan, you might disagree with me. They don't have any stars. Maybe in the hockey world, people are like, oh, Tage Thompson. No, I don't think so. For Buffalo, like Von Miller is a star. He's a future Hall of Famer. Certainly Josh Allen, like perhaps the biggest star you've ever had, but Diggs was up there.
Oh yeah,
like Diggs. That's where this hurts, and where it's going to hurt is he's going to go to Houston. Let me tell you how this is going to go, Tim. He's going to be on his best behavior.
Sure.
To the fact where he's going to put up numbers. He's going to talk about. He's going to be. Hey, look at him helping Tank Dell. Look at him helping Nico Collins. Look at him doing all these things. It's going to be little shots he'll take at Buffalo. Hey, I've never had a quarterback like this. I've never had a coach like this. It's going to be those things where you, as the Bills fan, you just brace that this is coming and tune it out. Tune it out because this is what he does.
Yeah, no, I agree. I don't know how long he's got a lot of offseason, a lot of projects he's involved in. I don't know how long he wants to play in the league either. I mean, I'm not saying he's not going to play after this year, but I don't think Steph Diggs is going to be playing when he's 38. I think he's talked about respecting his body and some of his aspirations with modeling and some of the things he does, and he likes to be in front of the camera. But it's interesting because before 2020, casual football fans, they'd heard of him probably because of the Case Keenum, Saints game, the essentially the miracle pass. But he came here. He wasn't a stud when Minnesota traded him here. It was Adam Thielen and him were sort of 1 and 1A. They had done they'd had a good run, and I remember hearing from Minnesota fans that he had worn out his welcome, and they were sick of the drama. I remember a couple of Minnesota fans texting me like, "Oh, good luck with that," and we didn't see that right away. He became a superstar here. Him and Josh, the both of them, they did together. I mean, they kind of just hand in hand, just let's go. But Diggs was not a top 5 receiver in the NFL before he came here. I mean, and before Josh Allen was throwing him the ball. And I'm not saying he won't still be. I think they both developed. It was a perfect timing. But it wasn't, at this point, I think a lot of fans are kind of equally glad and sad, if that makes sense.
Well, it was, I didn't think they would do it.
Yeah.
It was one of those stories, Tim, where I always say, listen to the local guys, because the national media, your FS1s, your ESPNs, all those digs, he wants out. No, you don't know what you're talking about. But well, I was wrong on that. I'm going to admit it. I'm like, wow, I didn't really think they would do it, and they did it.
Well, Stephen A. was his whole rant, and Nate Burleson is saying, see, I called it. Well, if you just have a take, you could be right. I mean,
yeah.
So I don't really believe Stephen A. Smith knew, like, oh, the bill, he's gone, he's going, he's leaving. No, I don't think he knew, but sure, there's a lot of, you could tell there was a relationship issue. The way, I don't think Diggs ever once stood up for Josh in the last couple of years when, on Twitter, most of his stuff was like last 2 nights ago when he wrote, are you sure?
Are you sure? Yeah, like, okay, you can't do that to your quarterback. No. You cannot do that. And what really was that the last straw? Like, okay, call up Houston. We're doing this.
Yeah, it would be great to. I wish we could find out. Just to know. Like, when was this already in the works? Did you guys do this months ago? Is Joe Mixon telling the truth? Who knows?
Who knows? And the thing that you made yourself, you're not as good in the wide receiver room. Your cap situation is worse. Albeit by $3 million, but it looks a lot bad when you say $31 million dead. But now you fortified a team that some point you figure is going to be in your path come the postseason.
Yes.
That's the part where I'm like, you're putting teams that want to trade the star player. Maybe it's not the best example, but Vegas. Hey, Jack Eichel, we don't want you playing for the Bruins. Go out there. Well, he won a cup. Why is not, like your favorite team moving on from their star player, usually you send them somewhere where they're not going to hurt you. And it was my first thought too, was why are we're arming a foe? We're giving them an accelerated growth process, right? But part of me looks at it too, football of all the sports, you look, most of the team sports, it's the one where when you bring in a lot of alpha personalities, it tends to backfire a lot. Most of like the super teams. Yep. You look at Spurrier when he went to Washington, and Snyder was always trying to chase the free agents and on and on. I mean, it is so much more difficult. But you got Mixon, who's definitely he's not great in the locker room. He's a bit of a loose cannon. Mm-hmm. Now you've got Diggs in that locker room. So they went from this like lovable, like C.J. Stroud, who's incredible talent. What a year. Tank Dell, who was this incredible story. He was an unheralded prospect, and he gets drafted, and him and Stroud become buddies at the combine, and they draft him, and he's just worked his butt off every level. He's a little guy. Nico Collins was kind of an wasn't a big pick out of Michigan, but they had these sort of, hungry players. Yeah. Now they're bringing in the divas a little bit. How is that going to play out? And part of me thinks Bean and, look at how they've developed this team. I don't think they look at it like that as a zero sum. They said, no, this is best for us. Yeah.
But I agree.
Well, it's like if Bean is doing this deal, the second round pick next year, people are like, well, this doesn't help you this year. I bet it could.
Sure.
I
agree.
True or false, that pick will still be in Brandon Bean's hands by the time we get to the draft next year.
Nope.
I think it's gone. I think that is one of the pieces you're going to use to move up.
Yeah.
I think like that is, and then you could say, all right, this receiver here that we got, the receiver of our choice. And don't think for a second, too, who else needs a receiver? Kansas City. Mm-hmm. I follow a lot of Chiefs Twitter, and they're all like same thing. Receiver. Now with Rasheed Rice going, who knows what? He's going to have an issue. You're going to have to move up to get the guy you want. And you have more chips than Kansas City now. So
it is a very deep receiver draft. And with the really, if you look at the draft value formula, I saw one today that 17 might be a realistic spot to sort of move up to.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no way I can see the Bills going to the top 10. It'd be the capital you'd have to give up. Also, we'd probably have some Sammy Watkins, memory cells there. That might not be great. But
we should mention, too, the Bills made a move today. They haven't made this official, but multiple sources now. La'el Collins, a Buffalo Bill.
Oh.
Yes, so he gets a 1-year deal, and as we kind of he wasn't the gas mask guy. He was the falsely accused guy, and then the agent said, "Hey, do not draft our client because he deserves first-round money." And so,
where was he last year?
Dallas. So he went Dallas to Cincinnati, back to
Okay,
Dallas.
I thought he was with Cincinnati. Yeah.
He's 30.
Oh,
potential swing tackle candidate. So. Yeah, it gets us off talking just for a half second on Diggs. We've got shots coming up in sports. By the way, Kevin Klubja will be joining us at 5:40, so we've rescheduled that as we'll try to figure out the lease agreement for the Amerks, how they're not going to be running the arena anymore. He's got the story in the Rochester Business Journal. We'll talk to him about some of the on-ice stuff. Shots coming up here. Tim, the way this works, I'll give some headlines. You can comment. We've got time for your calls, and last call today, too. 866-4FAN. 866-4326 is the Sports Bar on the Fan Rochester.
The only way to take the Fan Rochester with you is the free Odyssey app. Download it today and follow the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan Rochester.
We got Kevin and Klobuchar coming up here in a little bit. Let's rip off some of the headlines today in sports as Tim Thompson, former Irondequoit lacrosse great. I'm using that. Well, former is true. He played for Irondequoit.
Let's not say great.
Yeah, that's joining us here in the sports bar. 4-goal first period for the Amerks. That's all they needed. 6-1 the final at home over Cleveland. The rookie defenseman, both having a goal and 2 assists, Zach Metza and Nikita Novikov. All 6 goals happening against former Amerks goalie Malcolm Subban. Devin Levi coming back to Rochester. He was solid. 26 saves. Next up, a trip to the Eastern Seaboard. Providence Saturday. Bridgeport on Sunday. Rochester now tied with Cleveland for second place in the North with 77 points. Probably your lead story last night, as you know, you're a Ranger fan, Tim. You had to love that. I'm trying to follow what led up to all that. It blew up my feed last night watching it.
The last Devils Rangers game.
Yeah.
When Rempe hit
Siegenthaler. They both got Rempe got the suspension. So
they did a slap shot. Just
let's at the Garden of all places.
Yeah.
I didn't know you could still do this, and
I've not seen that. I don't think I've seen that since the late '80s. Just puck drop, yard sale. Let's all just fight.
Yeah, let's fight. That was literally out of Slapshot. Pretty cool last night. We already knew the NFL Network was cutting down on expenses.
Siciliano.
Yeah, the notion they toyed with Good Morning Football, moving it from New York to L.A., that caught our attention because 3 a.m. Pacific time, you're not doing a morning show with any value. Now comes this news today, and you mentioned Tim, Andrew Marchand reporting that Melissa Stark, Andrew Siciliano, James Palmer, Will Selva all let go today. Siciliano being a Syracuse grad. These are the things when I look at this, you do when you're preparing for a sale. And I'm wondering if they're trying to flip the NFL Network because, come on, you're the NFL. You have money. What are you doing layoffs for?
Especially, they're all talented broadcasters, and they're beloved by their viewers and their coworkers. And it's sad because it dilutes the product.
Yeah.
And you wonder again, there has to be some other reason because the NFL is not hurting for money, as we know.
The Oakland A's will be playing in Sacramento from 25 to 27. This is noteworthy because the A's, again, the double bird to Oakland. They could have stayed there, but they're moving to Sacramento. Seating capacity, just a little over 10,000, which is actually smaller than Innovative Field. Seating on grassy berms, I suppose, will bring the attendance up to 14,000. Grassy berms, like this is like some...
Well, then you got, between that and then the Arizona, they're playing... The hockey arena is what, 4,600? Yeah. Because they don't have a home right now. The
Coyotes, right?
So the Coyotes are playing in front of less than 5. You got what MLB team playing in front of 10,000.
Yeah, and I don't even know what they're going to call it. Are they the Sacramento A's? Are they? So what happens here? And this is the part I love. There is a real possibility that the whole Vegas deal falls apart.
Well, I was in Vegas in February, and I randomly talking to people about, because there was an uproar about it. They don't really want the A's.
No.
There's not much interest.
Why would you want owner, that team? You hold out for an expansion team. You're Las Vegas. We don't want your garbage. Get out of here with this.
They're it's not. They want an NBA team.
Yeah,
but they don't want the Oakland, and they've torn down the Tropicana. That's the rumored site. The old casino that was in lots of old movies.
Yeah.
But
they still haven't. They're going to.
Yeah, well, they had its last day to the public.
Oh, did it?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, all right.
People were stealing chips, and they had to ban people from certain areas. I was following it on Twitter this week, but yeah, it's a bizarre move by MLB.
The NBA, you brought up Julius Randle, the Knicks. He's not going to be coming back this season. Kind of a bummer. He's going to have surgery on that shoulder. Just kept him out since January 27th. 5 games in the NBA tonight. Doubleheader on TNT. The Knicks and Kings, followed by Denver and the LA Clippers, where you get if you're a basketball fan, you're in nirvana, because Friday night, the semifinals for the women, then you get the men, then you get the women's championship, then you get the men's championship. I don't know, like on Monday, there's something going on Monday.
Oh.
Yeah.
When's the eclipse? Do we know? Is it Tuesday?
No idea.
No idea.
No idea.
No idea.
What if the power goes out? What if the sun doesn't come back?
I don't know.
Will we get the game still?
You know, that's something. Try that on somebody tonight. Try that. Just
What
see
if
if
the
like
sun doesn't come back?
just try just like I heard like what day is that again?
Yeah.
Just see if you can bait somebody.
Yeah, I've been doing it. My kids thought I was crazy.
Your kids are in tune. So.
Yeah, like when's the eclipse? It is a good sports weekend though.
It's a good spot. And here's the thing with Monday. I'm taking a 3-day weekend, meaning tomorrow. Baseball draft, big thing, Tim. I have to go in person. Can't do this by Zoom.
You got the Street and Smiths fantasy baseball.
Yeah,
remember those? Those are the best.
Those are the best. Yeah. Danger makes fun of me for my magazines. Yeah, stop with that. Blondies is not that sort of place, Dan DeLorean. It is a legit sports bar.
He's going to the ballet.
Yeah, no, not at all. It's across from the Dublin House. If you're familiar with the Upper West Side, as you are, Tim.
Now he's trying to confuse us with waypoints.
Yeah. So, the point being, Monday. Is anybody working Monday? I get the sense I will be working Monday, and I don't know if anybody else is going to actually be open Monday.
And you apparently can't park anywhere, and they're telling you the streets are going to be, it's going to be anarchy and chaos.
Yes.
Maybe Rasheed Rice is going to come here and do some drag racing.
I wouldn't want to see that. Tim, thanks for stopping by. We got an interview coming up here with Kevin O'Klubja, 540. As last call is going to be tight, but if you want to, give us a shot at 866-4FAN. It's a sports bar here on the Fan Rochester.
You're listening to the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on 95.7 FM and AM.
Fun week we've had in the sports bar. A lot of sports stories, and I gotta thank our next guest, Kevin O'Klubja, because this was originally going to be yesterday, but I didn't have on my bingo card Steph Diggs trade, and he was kind enough to move this conversation to today. Although, Kevin, you're a Viking fan, if you don't mind me sharing that. So, are you just kind of?
I'm a Twins fan. I mean, I grew up in Minnesota, and at one time I was a Viking fan, but now I don't know how anybody could be. It would be like being a Bills fan. How much disappointment can you go through? So now I just watch football and enjoy. I just enjoy the game.
Yeah, it's good to kind of detach a little bit. Kevin O'Klubja, Rochester Business Journal, also Picking Splinters, and three things I wanted to talk to you about, Kevin. Amerks on and off the ice, and this RIT portal story after coming off a great year, but. The original thing, you've got the story up at the RBJ, like it's the Pagulas are stepping away from the arena, but the question is why? After all they went through, and this was 2017 and 2018, they negotiated, now they're stepping back. Are they just looking to downsize, or is there any concern here in your opinion?
Not for the teams that play there, not at all. Although, there's a school of thought already that this might just be negotiation, that they've realized over their, whatever it is, 3 or 4 years of running the rink, it's pretty hard to make any money in a building that has limitations, that is old. I know the mayor calls it the crown jewel of downtown or whatever, but it's 60 years old, and the hallways are tiny, and the seats are horrible. They weren't made for that building. The frame came from a arena that was built in the 70s in Cleveland. It's not the same cushions, but nonetheless, a lot of the seats are not comfortable. I've sat in them. So I think there's limitations to what some of the shows you can bring in, and I think they're just kind of saying, maybe we don't want to run this unless.
Yeah, I thought was interesting in the statement they put out. We look forward to the conversations. Whenever I see conversations, to me that's when you're winning, Kevin, you're not having conversations. When you're having conversations when you're struggling on the ice, you're having conversations in a negotiation. What are we conversating with about the city? So I think you're onto something there in that regard, that maybe ultimately, because they're still paying rent here, the city still views the Amerks and Nighthawks as tenants.
Yeah, and it's even if they can't get some new deal done, if that's what they're looking to do, then I'm sure they'll just say that's fine. Whoever the new building manager is, we'll work out a lease with them and the city and all together, and we'll just worry about it that way. I'm not sure how many people are going to submit are going to reply to the RFP for the city and say we'd like to manage that arena. I don't know how long that list would be.
I heard from one source, Delaware North. So it's you're going to have places like that, but then again, who knows if they'll actually fill out the application. And Kevin O'Klubja, our guest here, he is certainly with the Rochester Business Journal, Picking Splinters. Kevin, before you were in studio, Dan and Tim here, we were having this conversation about the Amerks and how far can this team go? And that's my question to you. To me, I don't even think it matters if they finish first, second, or third. They match up pretty well against these teams. How do you see things shaping up here in the month of April?
There's some serious potential there. I mean, there really is. With Devin Levi in goal, yes, he's a rookie, but at this level, I mean, he's a top-notch goalie, and he's not ready for everyday NHL duty. But that's why he's here, and probably should have been. Not probably, he should have been. I mean, no ifs, ands, and bets. He just should have started the year here. But he's here now. Who knows? He may go back up again and play a couple more games for the Sabres and then come back. But he'll be here for the playoff run. He will be number one. They have a goalie now that gives them stability, makes big saves. Their forwards are good, and it's kind of they get Rusick back in the picture as well. Their decor is mobile. They can add to the offense. They're okay in their own end and sometimes really good in their own end. I don't know if they can beat Hershey, but they can certainly get through this division. Whether they will, I don't know. But I think any team that plays them would be pretty worried.
Seth Appert, you got, I don't want to call it an audition, but I thought it was noteworthy that, when Don Granato wasn't available, he got the call to be up there 2 games. Like at some point, is he taking the jump up to the NHL here, Kevin?
You know what? I'm wondering that. I'm sure it's his goal. I do wonder how often some of the guys who were with the development program and then the success he's had here developing players, I just wonder how often they get kind of put in that role or that viewed as a development coach and not necessarily, an NHL coach. I don't know, right or wrong. I'm not sure. He loses both of his assistants last year, but he's still here. So I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
And both of his assistants, they had NHL experience as players. So that may play into it as well. Maybe that's what, people want, an assistant's role. I think he's a pretty good coach. He gets, and in what he's asked to do here and develop players, it is happening. And I think probably the best judge of that is the way that the last 3 years, the team from where they were in the beginning, and every team gets better, but this team is dramatically better all 3 years from the start to where they, to April and May and even March.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun spring downtown with the Rochester Americans. Kevin O'Clubs, our guest. Kevin, RIT coming off their best season in years, and what a roller coaster here, where on a Saturday night, sold-out arena, you win the conference championship, you're at a high. And then Thursday, the following Thursday, you're playing the number 2 team in the nation. And I'll just say this. The Tigers did not embarrass themselves. They played pretty well, and there's no shame whatsoever losing to Boston College. But then I look at my phone. On Easter Sunday, I look at my phone like, wait a second. You lost your top goaltender and your top playmaker to the portal. Couple questions here, Kevin. Number one being, I hate the timing of the portal. Like you can't get the season's still going on here. Like, do they not know? Like, you're dealing with, and this is not just true of hockey. I hate the fact that basketball, we're on the Sunday night. Here's the bracket. Oh, by the way, the portal opened on Monday. Like, what? The system needs to be fixed, Kevin.
Yeah, I don't know what. I don't know where the college athletics go from here with the portal. I think it's not good for the smaller schools, that's for sure. I don't think it can't be prevented. Obviously, it's here. I'm not sure what they could ever do to stop it, but it just seems now that the lesser programs, regardless of the sport, will simply be the minor. They'll be the American Hockey League for the other schools or whatever. The minor league, the proving ground, the development ground, and then you know what? I think if I go to Alabama to play football, or if I go to Michigan, or if I go to, Boston College for hockey, I got a much better chance to play pro. And for the sake of the athlete, that's a good thing. But I'm not sure if it makes the game any better for the fan.
No, to go from like such a high to such a low. And I've gotten this question a lot, Kevin. I'm sure you get it a lot too, because it's not anything against RIT. It's a conference they're in. It's like you can win all the games and you're still going to only be the 15th seed because of the way the system is. They're kind of trapped, right? Yeah, go ahead.
I do think RIT has a chance, and because of scholarships now, that they may, we saw it for the first time this year with that all-freshman line. That's the byproduct of scholarships for athletic scholarships. They could always give academic scholarships, but now they can give athletic scholarships, and they'll get some of the better younger players. Usually they were getting players that other teams missed, or whatever the case may be. They will get a better prospect, or better incoming freshmen who can play right away, that could, help them win some non-conference games, which could bump them up, and then maybe they're number 14 or 17 or 16 or 15 in pairwise, and suddenly you get a chance to get a higher seed. Playing in Atlantic hockey, you also have a much better chance to get to the NCAA tournament.
Yeah.
If you win the conference, you're in. Tough to win some of those other leagues, but I get why. I get why Scarfoni is saying I have to go somewhere else. The scouts need to see me play against the best. Maybe that's true. I happen to think scouts can figure out how good a guy is based on who he's playing against. I think their eye is good enough that they've been around hockey long enough to know, okay, I know what that guy's capable of, and I can see what he's capable of. Sometimes they're wrong, but I think they're pretty good at what they do. Carter Wilkie, I don't think anybody expected him back because I think everybody thought he'd signed some sort of contract. They didn't get the offer they wanted, so again, he thinks it's necessary to play at another school, and maybe he is right. RIT would have been pretty good next year, though, with those two guys back and everyone else that's back.
Yeah, that's it's kind of the disappointing part, but as you mentioned, at least RIT can give scholarships athletically. Now, once again, Kevin Klubja joining us here. Pick and Splinters, Rochester Business Journal. Kevin, what are you working on? We can kind of go check out and see more of your content here.
Actually, it's kind of quiet. The Amerks are on the road this weekend, so I'm not there, and RIT's done, and the Wings are rained out, and it's kind of quiet right now. Still plenty of content on Pick and Splinters, and obviously the RBJ has, business content that some of your listeners certainly are interested in. So
sure.
It's rbj.net.
Sure, Kevin. Let's do this again here. It's we may have a long run here, hopefully for the Amerks. Appreciate your time today.
Absolutely. Have a great day.
Thanks, Kevin Klubja, Rochester Business Journal, formerly DNC, and that's going to wrap it up here, gentlemen. Thank you very much. See, we did it without danger this week.
We did.
When he goes out of town, though, big events happen.
Go away.
Big news.
Big news. Big news.
What time is next vacation around there?
Yeah, so tomorrow in this time frame, it'll be the Zach Gelb show. As I've got, sorry, I'm taking one day off for myself.
Who's your top pick? All Mets.
All Mets, yes.
You're going to take all Mets.
Brandon Nimmo at number 7 overall. No, I'm not gonna do that. By the way, the Mets are losing here again today. Dan, thanks for your time.
Thanks for having me, Gino.
Appreciate it.
Of course.
So, no Sabres tonight. They're back in action tomorrow night. So we've got the JR Sport Brief coming up next, and then BetMGM tonight, where they will certainly, I'm still sure they're going to be talking about Stephon Diggs. Again, the Bills headlines from today. La'el Collins, the newest Buffalo Bill, 1-year deal. So there's a swing tackle candidate last with the Dallas Cowboys. We also have Stephon Diggs in Houston getting a new contract. He'll be a free agent in 2025. Thanks for listening to The Fan Rochester.